Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, guests. Very warm welcome to the University this evening. My name is Dr. Greg Walker, Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the University, and on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor and the University as a whole, we very much welcome you to this wonderful event in open democracy this evening. We're very proud to be hosts of this fantastic GMCA question and answer session. Obvious thanks and an obvious welcome to Mayor Andy Burnham. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Additional thanks and recognition go to our Deputy Constable who's with us tonight, Deputy Police Constable, and also the Assistant Chief Fire Officer this evening. And thank you to Nick Peel, who is the leader of Bolton Council, who has also joined us this evening. That's fantastic to see a wonderful turnout. Last but not least, it's great to see an old colleague in a way, first time I've seen and met in the flesh, our Deputy Mayor of Manchester, Kate. So thank you all for being here. It's been a big week for Mayor Andy Burnham. As you know, he's been fighting our corner with the Prime Minister on issues of transport connectivity and launched the fantastic B network, which I'm sure will be a topic of conversation today. It's had massive visibility in Bolton this week and really made an impact. And as a bus user in the town, it's a real fantastic improvement. So it's been a big week for the university as well, actually. We've had some fantastic news today, hot off the press. The Teaching Excellence Framework, which is the official rating for teaching quality in higher education in England, gave the university a silver ranking and for the student experience a gold award. So we were really delighted by that. Thank you very much. And that comes on top of news earlier in the month that we'd reached the top 30 in the Guardian League tables across the UK, not just England. So we've had a fantastic month. We're really in a mood to make a positive impact on the town and the region. So without further ado, just like to thank you again for being with us this evening. And I will hand you over to Rob, who will conduct this evening's interview. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's a real pleasure to be here at the University of Bolton. I'm sure it's going to be a really lively debate for the latest Mayor's Question Time. I'm looking forward to hearing all your questions over the course of the next 90 minutes or so. There's loads to talk about. It's been a busy week, as Greg says. We've got a full house here at the University of Bolton, as well as live streaming this event. So hello to everyone watching online. And I see loads of questions have been sent in on topics from transport to housing, environment, even local identity. So quite a lot to get through. Just to introduce myself, I'm Rob Parsons. I'm the Northern Agenda Editor for Reach. So I write the daily Northern Agenda newsletter about politics from places everywhere from Bolton to Barnard Castle and from Barnsley to Blackpool. Other places that don't begin with B as well. If you're interested in that, you can sign up at the northernagenda.co.uk. As Greg says, it's been a very busy week in the news for Greater Manchester. Andy's been on pretty much every media outlet going, even GB News at one stage. So I'm sure you've all got a lot of questions to ask him. We'll skip the intro that Andy sometimes does, and we'll go straight into the questions from our audience here tonight. And the first one, well, just to say also, we're going to try and do it sort of thematically. So as we go through each subject area, if you've got a question that relates to that, you're going to put your hand up and we'll try and take some supplementary questions as we're going along. So the first question is on transport, not surprisingly, and is from David Foster. Is David here?
Hello. How do you think the B network is going so far?
All right. Thanks, David. So I think it's settling all of the time now. And today, I think we've had our best day yet in terms of services feeling pretty stable. Now, I'm not going to kind of say everything is exactly where it should be yet, but that kind of process of things just becoming more and more predictable and reliable, that will just continue. I just think it's important to just sort of recap on what we've done. The biggest shake-up to buses in England has happened here in the last 5 days. Actually, it's only day 5 today, and the team are with us on the front row here, and maybe some of them might want to contribute tonight. but we've got Anne-Marie Purcell, who's led the whole change programme, Stephen Rhodes, who is Director of Operations, have we got that right? Director of Bus. We've got Nigel Feetham from Go Northwest, who are obviously the main franchisee in the area. What they did, I was there on Saturday, well, sort of early hours of Sunday morning. It was just colossal, the change that was happening, because buses were coming off the timetable on Saturday night. They were being refitted, radios fitted, new IT system was being installed in the depot. It was just massive, really, what was going on. We would all put our hands up and say Sunday was bumpy in terms of the kind of service standard, and at times wasn't there, and that in some ways was to be expected, but we're not going to do anything other than apologise to anybody who didn't have the service that they wanted. Monday, a bit the same, but we would say that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday have got progressively better, and we're getting to a point, we hope, where the service is becoming what we would want it to be, but still further to go, and there are teething problems across the system. So if I'm just going to be proud of the team for one moment, if you don't mind, because they've pulled off something massive that's not been done in England, and we didn't have one day of no service, if you like. There was a service on Saturday, there was a service on Sunday, and it is actually massive what they've done, on time, on budget. That's a pretty big thing. And, through the days of this week, it's, as I say, it's stabilised. And I think from here, we'll only continue to get better. So Bolton is in control of its buses, and that is a good thing as far as I'm concerned, because at least now, if the service isn't there, you can hold us to account. In the past system, in the deregulated system, there was literally nothing you could do. The operators had a sort of free hand, really. So it's a big change. I'm just trying to give you an honest answer. It's been a tough week. I can vouch for it. They've all given it their all, and it's been a massive, massive thing. But from here, I just think things we're okay today, and will improve further from here.
There's a lady over there who I'm going to come to shortly, but I just want to take one of the sort of preordained questions, because it relates to the B network. We've got one from David Hargraves, who's in the audience.
Sorry, can I?
Sitting awkwardly right in the middle.
Thank you. Good evening, Andy.
Hi, David.
Off-peak family travel passes abolished on the new B network. This started with the new bus fares last year. It now costs much more for a family to take day trips on a weekend or school holiday. Yes, individual trips are cheaper, but travelling for a day on bus and train off-peak, the cost is substantially more. This encourages families to either travel by car, pay more money, or not even do the day trips. Surely the B network should be encouraging family travel rather than burdening it with extra costs.
So thanks, David. I think I'm right in saying that the pass was removed about 2 years ago. I think I'm right in saying. So it wasn't a recent thing, and it wasn't linked to anything that's been done with the B network. In the old system, the operators, it's all a voluntary arrangement, and they can remove those things whenever they choose. What we are going to do is bring in a family offer within the franchise system. So I've just checked with the team before tonight, and absolutely there will be a family offer brought forward, and that I hope will be done fairly soon. So I just would say, we're not everywhere where we want to be at the moment, and the B network will continue to be built as we go forward. Our aim is to reduce the cost of travel for everybody in Greater Manchester, and that would include families. But the kind of thing you're referring to was not under our control. It was a kind of voluntary arrangement.
We could get on any of the buses to get the pass and get it from Bolton bus station from the Transport for Greater Manchester office.
Yeah, I think it was an operator-specific pass, though, wasn't it?
No, it was for...
Oh, was it GM?
It was
one of... Yeah, but I think the operators have to agree to support that, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I think it was... The information I had is it was withdrawn a couple of years ago. But our aim is to bring back an alternative offer. And now we've got the kind of buses under control, we can do that. Honestly, it's not our aim to charge anybody any more than... In fact, it's the opposite. We're trying to reduce the cost of bus and public transport travel for everybody. So I promise you we are looking at that, and we'll be saying more soon on that.
Okay, good to hear.
Okay.
Thank you, David. The lady over there had a hand up.
Hi, Andy.
Hiya, you okay?
Yeah, John Pritchard Jones.
Hi,
I
John.
live in Norwich.
Yeah.
And we have a fantastic shopping centre, the Middlebrook.
I know it, yeah.
But we don't have a bus that goes from Bolton to it.
Right. Oh, really?
Well, really? You're as shocked as I am. And we've only recently got the 516
Yeah.
that goes to Lee, that goes every hour from Norwich.
Yeah.
So we've got a fantastic facility. So can you please look into, we used to have a bus, the 576 used to go, deviate from Charlie New Road and go
Yeah.
round.
The Middlebrook?
Yeah, round the Middlebrook.
When was that lost?
That was lost a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So but this is the thing, Jonah, isn't it? This is the thing about why we've done this change. I mean, this is the key thing to get over. I know the last week's been a bit difficult for people in Bolton, and we do recognise that. But the reason we've done this change is that we now can decide to put a bus back in, whereas before we couldn't. We had no way of doing that because the operators made that decision. But I can tell you now that you've surprised me by saying what you've said, and I would. We can't change everything overnight because we've had to sort of start with what we inherited. But, I'm sure colleagues who are nodding on the front here, we would want to get buses back on the routes that people want to go on. And I can promise you, I will take a look at that very.
Thank you very much, Andy.
There is a chap in the middle who's got his hand up. I see the hands are starting to flood up now.
Okay. Here you go. Thanks. A question for Mr. Burnham. We've met previously in town. We spoke briefly about folding bikes on the trams. I'm just wondering if that's something you're still looking at doing going forward, and also if the bikes are they permitted on buses?
We don't have a policy yet to do that. On trams, we are going to bring forward a pilot for bikes on trams because there are safety issues that we just need to understand. But that is our firm intention, to bring forward a pilot. Buses is more difficult. I don't know if you've used any of the new buses. They have 2 spaces for wheelchairs and prams, but I would want to stress that it's predominantly for disability access and obviously for mums who need the space as well. I mean, when I was asked at the start, how's the B network going? I think it is a source of pride that we were able to bring 50 brand new electric buses onto the streets of Bolton and Wigan this week. Anne-Marie, who I mentioned before, and her team had to electrify the depot within a space of 6 weeks, 2 months, because we've had to retake control of depots as well as Greater Manchester, and we only got it late, and we've had to electrify it, and it was a gargantuan effort to get them on the road, but they did do, and that tells you that something big has been achieved. And those electric buses, they're better for the people on them, but they're better for the people who live near the traffic lights and the bus stops as well, aren't they? Because there's less noise pollution that comes from them. So, it's something I want to look at, in that we want public transport to be as convenient and as easy for people as possible. And we want to kind of give people reasons to use it as opposed to like barriers to using. So people who are on their bike, as I say, we want to trial it on trams. We did a pilot of dogs on trams last year, and that there'd been a rule against that, and everyone said it'll be, but it came through without any real issues. And that then helps people who want to take the dog, go up to Heaton Park or wherever, and so we're looking at all these things. We're not the finished product, and no one's going to say that tonight, but the B network will be brilliant, I promise you. When it's in its full state, it will be brilliant, and it will improve people's lives in Bolton, and I'm absolutely adamant about that. And on the cost of it, if you go on the B network app now, you can get really good value travel across all of Greater Manchester. You can get any bus in any borough, whole of Bolton, but any borough as well. And then you can get tram in Zone 1 added in the city centre for £6 a day. And honestly, that is good value. And so, I appreciate the point about family tickets, and we'll take a proper look at that. But, you know, the B network already, I think, is bringing a lot of benefits to people.
Do you have a date in mind by which you think the B network will have reached, you know, the peak that you want it to get to? Like, do you know when that might be?
Yeah, it's the 5th of January 2025.
Right.
So that's a good answer. That politicians don't normally produce something
very
that
specific.
It's very specific.
Why that date?
And I'm going to hold Anne-Marie and Stephen to it. I always remind them of the date. So, as I say, I am proud. You know, at a time when the country isn't delivering things, you know, bear in mind we've done it. You know, we, as Greater Manchester, have made this happen. When you've got chaos on the trains and, you know, a lot of other things going backwards, we've done this. And the reason being that we've managed this tranche, we call it tranche 1. It's basically the west of Greater Manchester has gone first. So about 20% of the city region's buses are now under public control here. And we've now let the contracts for tranche 2. So they're in the north of Manchester, Rochdale, Oldham. And there's a very set date for the mobilisation of that service, which is the 24th of March next year. So they'll get what you've got in 6 months. And then we complete the job on the 5th of January 2025. And it's very much set out now in the way we're doing this. And we're confident that we'll hit those dates, really confident. The team have been brilliant, as I say. And then that, Rob, to answer your question, will be tap in, tap out over bike, hire bike in the city, hire bike, bus, tram. And it will then it will optimise your fare depending on the travel patterns that you take. There will be many more electric and new buses on the roads. Nigel may want to say something about this. We put 50 buses on the road that Greater Manchester bought, and they're British built, by the way, the buses that are on your roads, which is another good story for the B network. But credit to the operator here, Go Northwest also have decided to invest in new fleet, haven't you, Nigel? Yes, and maybe worth saying something to the residents here, because Bolton will get new buses progressively over the coming months, won't they? People will see the blue ones disappear, won't they? And more of the new yellow buses on the road.
Yep, thank you. Yeah. So, when I was going to be answering questions tonight, somebody said to me, "You'll be able to do it in your sleep." I've been working so hard since Saturday night. I am doing it in my sleep. But no, you're right. Yeah, TFGM have funded 50 zero-emission buses, which are out there in their yellow livery. There'll be another 52 brand-new British-built buses to join those, making 102. So a third of the fleet that Andy's talking about will be brand new. And then over a period of time, you'll see the rest painted in yellow and gradually, over a period of time, replaced by ZEBs. And we'll work towards having a complete zero-emission service. And that's coming, it's on its way.
Well, that's a pretty good, you know, I think Bolton is on the brink of a pretty good public transport system. And what we want to do, I know we might get onto tram to Bolton tonight, and that's great. You know, by all means, somebody can ask that question. But we have a plan, if we get support from the government, but I hope we will, to bring the Southport to Manchester Victoria line into the B network. So what you would then have would be, if you like, a bus and a B network bus and a B network train option, where you could tap in, tap out on both. So that is a priority for us to do that.
So you can get all the way to Southport on the.
Yes, because I don't know if people are familiar with London, but in London there's something called TfL Overground. So these are like commuter train services that go into London, but even if they start a bit outside of London, they're still coming to service London.
Yeah.
So we've got a number of lines in Greater Manchester that are for commuters to Manchester, even if the sort of stations that they start from are outside. So there's a Buxton to Manchester line, there's a Glossop to Manchester line, but there's a Southport line that comes through Bolton, which has had its problems, I think it's fair to say, all railways. But that is one of our targets to bring into the B network. So it would mean you could get, what I'm just trying to describe, so if you live, let's say, I don't know, say you live in Horwich, and you've got a bus into Bolton interchange, you could get off then and get on the train, and it would all be one journey. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what we hope to do between sort of 2025, 2027 sort of time.
Fantastic. There's a couple of, take just 2 more bus questions, I think, before we move on to our next subject. There's a lady over there who's had her hand up very patiently for the last few minutes.
Thank you very much. Andrea Egan. I'm Branch Secretary, Bolton, Unison branch here in Bolton, so represent with the largest trade union in the town. And our workers absolutely welcome a good bus service. What you need is to be able to get to work on time. So it is exciting for our members to be able to hopefully have that vision. But I have been asked to ask you, do you have any intention of reinstating the little free bus that would take people who have mobility issues, either through their age or disability, around the town, to enable all people to have access to all areas of the town? And my retired members have asked me, why do the people of Bolton have to wait until they are of retirement age and not 60 as in other towns for a bus pass?
Yeah. I'll have to take the question about the free bus away, because I don't know, when did that stop? Has that stopped in the last couple of years?
About 18 months ago. 18
months. Do you want to answer, Stephen, on that one? Yeah.
Hello, yes. We're certainly aware there was that free bus service. I think the point there, goes back to the bit about we've franchised the existing bus network, which you've heard is a big challenge. The intention is fairly soon, by which I mean really over the sort of late autumn, winter into next year, to start a number of quite structured network reviews that do have an engagement, a consultation part of that. It's really important, as we've heard tonight, that the network that we've got now beds in before we try to do anything, I was going to say, too clever with it. But that's going to be looking at what people want, what people need. We'll be able to have a look at travel patterns where people want to go in a way that's not happened before, because that's been something the commercial market, the operators, as you've heard from Andy, have decided upon. So the intention is, as I say, quickly to move towards looking at how we evolve the network and services. And we need to do that. And we can make little changes and tweaks and things, but something like that we need to look at on a slightly wider basis, so that we can actually manage our way through this. And obviously, in some cases, we may need to find additional funding to do things of that sort. So that we just need to step through that carefully. But we're going to be starting, having got to the stage we have done, and we know people's expectations, such as that one, we know that we need to get on quickly with how do we develop and change and hopefully improve, of course, and put more services on. And that's the sort of one that we can look at.
So, got Nick here, the leader of the council, and I've said to Nick, it'd be good if Bolton gets its own B network committee to pick up the issue you've just raised, but also the one Joan raised before, to say, what are the aspirations of the residents of the borough? What do you want? If you could change the bus service in Bolton, what would you prioritise? And what we're going to try and do as part of the review that Stephen just mentioned is take all of those and obviously work with Nick and his colleagues to say, right, which ones of these can we do? This is the point of taking control. We can shape it now for you. And that is something we couldn't do before. If some of them need a bit of funding, but we decide it's the right thing to do for the reasons that you gave, then we can do that. Or, with the Royal Bolton or something like that, if they need something for staff, some of your members will make that service. And I know the 501 has had its issues this week going past the hospital, and we know that, but we've been working, Nigel, haven't we, to fix that. So the point being that we would want Unison and other residents groups to be, and Horwich residents, Blackrod residents, you name it, to say to Nick and the councillors, this is our request, or these are our calls. So Bolton Council, working with us then, could say, right, we've got all of these things, can we put them into a revised network, working with Nigel and his team? And that's why it's a better system, to be honest with you. And on the thing about the pass, we just took a decision years ago that at retirement age, state retirement age, we wanted to give people the benefit, full benefit then. So obviously in Greater Manchester people get free bus, tram and train. And that's the deal that we've decided to do. I think if I'm honest, if we went to a free pass at 60, I don't think I should get a free pass at 60. I think there's a lot of well-paid people in the city who shouldn't really, do you know what I mean? I think we do what we do so we can really give people a full benefit in retirement, and that's the decision that we've taken. maybe we'll come on to the difference between other areas in terms of what the benefits they give, but that's our decision, and we're trying to be fair to all residents, if you know what I mean. If I was to say everyone gets it at 60, I'd be putting up fares for everybody else under 60, and honestly, I'm not sure I could justify that.
Thank you, Andy. We're going to move on to a new topic in just a minute after this last question on this subject from this lady.
I don't mind quickly taking all the bus ones just in case, if that's what
Okay,
I don't want to miss. If that's all, I'll give you a quick answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's rattle through a couple now.
Yeah.
I've got a daughter who's disabled. 6 years ago, funny enough, I was at your questions and answers.
Right.
I was asking the same question. She couldn't get a transport for Greater Manchester pass because she was disabled. She fell out of the criteria with CAMS because she was older, and she wasn't under the local authority schemes.
Right.
It took me 3 years to get one, and she eventually got it.
Yeah.
It's now gone for renewal. The Transport for Greater Manchester are not accepting anything I'm sending. They won't accept a blue badge, and that's for mobility. They won't accept a Nimbus
But if it's
card.
a renewal, why? You know, because if it's been granted before, why is there?
You tell me, because I'm at the end of my tether.
We'll have a look.
And she tried the Nimbus card. She's got blue badge from Trafford.
Yeah.
I've got power of attorney because she's got ADHD and autism, and she gets 10 points for PIP for planning a journey. But they won't accept that because it's not for physical.
Don't worry. We'll have a chat before I go, and I'll take your details, and we will have a look at it.
Thank you.
We will have a look at it.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll take a few more on buses. So the young chap there next to you. Do you want to just pass the mic over?
Hello, Andy.
Hi,
I think it was March I met you at the 5 Missions.
Yes, right.
Thing.
Yeah.
I'm the holder of an hour pass, free bus travel across Greater Manchester.
Yeah.
I use it roughly about 15 times in a week, getting to and from college and
Getting your money's
to
worth
and from
there.
work. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it runs out next year in August 24. Around the time I'll be going into university. Now, obviously, everybody knows university students struggle financially. And I wondered if there'd be any potential plan to extend something similar to the hour pass to university students in Greater Manchester.
Yes, is the idea. It's possible to do it now because we can decide. I'm found the RPass useful. I mean, I think it's been a really big lifeline actually to a lot of young people in Greater Manchester. I'm really proud of it. The thing about it, and again, I just want to keep explaining to people the difference between what we had and the world that we're now going into. I mean, I'm not saying this to have a go at Nigel and all the operators, but in the old world, when you use your 15 journeys, we just had to pay every time that you used it, even though the bus is empty. Now in this world, we control the fare box. So obviously the operators get a fee for providing the service, but it doesn't cost us as much to provide the RPass is what I'm saying now, because we're not having to pay for every single journey that you use. So that could give me more freedom to sort of do something more up the age range. And we've got, I think, some of the colleagues here tonight, the new president, I should say, of Bolton University is in the room. We've got an organisation called the Greater Manchester Students Greater Manchester Students Assembly, who I meet fairly regularly. And they've made the call for an 18 to 21 offer. Now, there is I think there have been some operator offers through the university, so there is some discounted travel. I think I would want Anne-Marie and Stephen to look at a structured 18 to 21 B network offer that might include tram and bus together. And certainly that call has come from the Greater Manchester Students Assembly. So other areas have got it. I think Sheffield's got something like that. So we're going to look at what they've got. It's all about making it add up, though. As you know, you'll all understand that I can't promise things like the 60 and all, because people will say, but the BNet will go bust if you can't just keep giving it away. We're going to have to make the sums add up. But our aim is to make the sums add up while helping our residents as much as we possibly can. The aim here is a London-style system, as I've always said, which means low fares to get high usage of the system. So we want low fares and buses, okay, full. I know that presents some issues, but we'd rather have that than high fares and buses a third full, and that's the change we're trying to make. So long answer, but yes, we're going to look at an 18 to 21 offer, but it won't be imminent. We'd maybe look at the start of the next academic year for when we might be able to bring something in.
Brilliant. Thank you.
On the subject of making the sums add up, there's a question from Nick on Twitter who has asked, who is paying for the B network in 2 years' time?
Well,
maybe you just explain the sort of context for that and where the funding is coming to up until that point.
Yeah, so this isn't sort of unique to the B network though. All metropolitan authorities outside of London have a problem in 2 years' time because there's no commitment from the government to any revenue support. So to be fair to them, they've given us some now, but London's had massively more than us for decades. And we're talking pretty small crumbs off the table here. But the Transport Select Committee, the cross-party, Conservative chaired, said the government needs to create a deal for predictable funding for bus systems outside of London. And, you know, that is supported. I was talking to all of the mayors today. We have a meeting called the M10. So these are all the metro mayors of the country. Conservative Mayor of the West Midlands supports what I'm saying. You know, we're all in the same position. Doesn't matter if your system's regulated or deregulated. We actually now feel, though, for the reason I just gave a moment ago, that our system is more financially sustainable rather than the old system. In the deregulated world, it would often be the case that an operator would say, oh, well, this service, we can't run it anymore unless you give us, you know, a bailout. And often the public sector was left sort of chasing around and bailing out services and was in a sort of weak position. Now we're in a much stronger position where we're just, you know, we're in control and we can cut our cloth accordingly and not sort of be subject to that pressure. So we actually think public money will go further in the franchise system than it did do in the old deregulated system. But irrespective of that, everybody needs the government to support buses outside of London post-2025, and that's whatever system you've got. In terms of who paid for it getting up to this, again, I want to credit the councils of Greater Manchester. They put aside the money way before I arrived as mayor to make this change happen. In the 80s, pretty much the system was just smashed to pieces. The depots were pretty much given away. You know, the stock was sold for not much, way below its value. So the old GM buses was basically smashed up, and the councils, way before my time, have been putting money away and been working hard to glue this thing back together again. And in your part of the world, it was finally glued together again this weekend, where the depot is now under public control. So are the buses, and you should be proud of that. You know, this has been a hard thing for them to do, really hard. And the payment was our Greater Manchester money. The transitional costs of all this are about £140 million. So roughly, if you split that up into tenths, it's about 14 million from Bolton has paid to make this change happen.
Let's try and rattle through just the last few bus questions. We can move on to something else. There's a chap there, he's got the mic in his hand, and then I'll come to you.
Hi Andy, my name's Jason Pendlebury, I'm from Bolton. It's great to see the B network operating as it is. I think the people of Bolton have rightly waited a long time for this, and I think we're very proud of the fact that we can see these buses going around the town. But with considerable amount of money used to get this off the ground, it's increasingly obvious through statements from local officials and yourself that significant footfall, commuter footfall, is required to make this work from a financial operational model. So my question is, if commuter numbers don't match the expectation, will fares steadily increase? And more importantly, if the B network fails to operate at a simple break-even point, could there ever be a time when the people of Bolton will see a levy or a precept on their council tax bills to backfill the shortfall?
So let me answer both questions directly. The answer to the first question is possibly that could happen. I've not hidden that at all. So I brought in the £2 cap on fares. I was the first person to do it, and then the government followed. But the government are putting their fares back up again now to £2.50. Because I am in a unique position now where I'm the only mayor outside of London that controls part of the system here, and eventually it'll be all of it. It's my call with the leaders, and we will make those judgments. It's up to us. I can't stress this enough. If you use it, if the people use it, we will be able to do it. And that's what we're pleading. You know, the get on board message that we're putting out there, it's not a throwaway slogan, and we really mean it. Please do. Because the more you use it, the more we will keep those fares low. We're not trying to make money out of it. And, you know, we want a system that works for the public. On the second part of the system, second part of the question, I mean, the answer is, I'm going to again be honest, we have put into the plan a small bit on the precept you pay on the mayoral precept to pay for some of the further costs of. So that is going to be there. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not a huge amount, but it's in the plan that was put forward a few years ago that there would have to be a small contribution to make the system work. So I'm not going to hide away from saying that tonight. That was always in the plan. If you go back to the original journey towards a franchised system, but what I'm trying to do is give you more benefit back the other way. For the cuts in fares will massively more outweigh. If you use the bus system, you will more than get that back many times over. So that's what we're trying to do. I'm just trying to answer you honestly. I don't want to have any sort of sense that, yeah.
You, sir, slightly further forward. There's a mic coming your way.
Oh, thank you, Andy. My question is around the same feasibility of the system. With a one-stop return journey costing £2 for the journey and £2 for a return, then do you not think that that's very expensive for a one-stop return? And do you not think that will have an effect on footfall if there was some kind of a more affordable short journey return offering from the B network?
Yeah, I take your point. And there were some journeys, as you say, that were under £2 when the cap was brought in. And it was never the case that it was a sort of everyone has to put the fares up to £2. It was meant to be a cap on fares. And we were quite vigilant to watch whether or not some operators were taking that as an opportunity to put fares up to the cap. That was not what it was intended to do. But we... In the non-franchise world, we were not able to stop them doing that if that's what they did, because they were in charge of their prices. Once we fully get this system in place, and bear in mind, for the reasons just given from the gentleman behind, we do have to make this thing add up, and we do, and we have to be honest about that. I would want to start talking to the team once we've got a stability in the system to see if we could do what you've just said, whether or not there was a sort of a very more localised offer, or, as they have in London, what they call a hopper offer, where you can have an hour. If you pay your £2, you've got an hour to use as many buses as you can. That could be an option that we might look at. So, those things. Honestly, the thing that's exciting about this is all the things you're asking become possible in the world that we're now in a way that they weren't before.
Very last question on buses, lady over there.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking a question on behalf of Bolton and District Pensioners, and I'm lowering the tone a little bit. It's talking about toilets. In this day and age, the toilets on bus stations, you have to pay for. Piccadilly got rid of their 20p charge on the stations because they used to charge 20p. In Bolton Station, you have to pay 20p to go to the toilet. Most people pay with their cards or the mobiles, so it's cashless. So not a lot of people do have the 20p's. By the time they run about looking for 20p's, it could often be too late. But is there any chance of that 20p being taken away from those toilets on the bus station? Bearing in mind, there's not many toilets in Bolton. All our public ones have been closed. Marks and Spencer's has gone, where they used to have a toilet. So that's really more or less the last toilet around Bolton.
So I'm probably going to regret this, because I'm the kind of, I kind of sometimes say things when, but I would like to get rid of that. Let's see if we can get rid of that. Because I noticed the gate. I was at Bolton. I spent a lot of time at Bolton Interchange over the last few days, and I noticed the turnstile thing. And the leader of the council might have to make a donation to this little. It can't all be TFGM, but I don't like the world we went into. When did it start happening? The 80s, 90s? Oh, I know what you mean. But when everything was like that was charged for, I'm somebody who is really passionate about an age-friendly Greater Manchester, and I don't think the fear of being caught short should stop anyone going out, but it does, doesn't it? Some people just don't want to risk it, and to me, that's not that's not the kind of world or society I want to live in. And so I would like to get rid of that, but I'm not, well, I kind of said it now, haven't I? But I mean, I'm sure someone at TFGN is going, well, I can see that on the front row, they're all thinking, oh my God, more money. No, but it's like the point about bikes on trams or dogs on trams. Give people simple reasons and support to use it. You know, if I'm saying get on board and then everyone says, well, I'll go there and So, yeah, let's see if we can get rid.
Might need to spend a penny to...
Whoa! You can... Thanks. You can see why he works in the media.
Right.
Peter Kay's obviously got a problem here with a rival.
We're going to move on to a different topic now. We have a question from Trevor Jones. It's actually related to what we've been talking about, but sort of slightly different.
Mr. Burnham, Trevor Jones, leader of Bolton for Change.
Yeah.
What's your intentions with this clean air zone? Because are you just seeing what Cairns done in London? Because I get the feeling as soon as you get re-elected, if you do get re-elected, you're going to go for it in Greater Manchester.
No, I can
and
assure...
also, the infrastructure you've spent up to now, with the signs under review, how much have you spent and what's that going to go for? Because it's all going to be wasted cash, isn't it?
So on your first, your first question, no, I'm really clear about this, and I've said this in the media today, and I will repeat it here tonight. We're not going to go for a charging scheme, and that would apply after the election. And obviously, you've got somebody from the media sitting right here. We took...
So why are we not taking down the signs?
Because we can't. And this is the thing that really kind of frustrates me, if I'm honest with you. It's not our call. It's the government. They've paid for all this stuff as well. We haven't paid for it. They put a legal direction on Bolton Council and all the other 9. It was not a choice that Greater Manchester just voluntarily decided one day to do this. We were basically forced to do it. And you go to Bradford, you'll see a clean air zone. The same. Newcastle, they've gone the same. This is what's been happening. And the thing that, I'll be honest, you know, we thought in a world before the pandemic that because we always excluded cars and that was never going to be in, that if we got enough money from the government and we could help everybody change their vehicle, that's just about, this might work. I can honestly say to you, it was the sort of middle of 2021, I was getting reports from people that the cost of vehicles was going like this. And the actual order books were just full and nobody could buy a vehicle. And I kept saying to my team, I think the thing that was built pre-pandemic, the idea just isn't going to work at all. And then there was the backlash, as you might remember. But at that point in time, we went to the government, I negotiated it. The legal direction that was on the councils said you had to have legally compliant air by 2024. And we renegotiated that to say 2026. The government wanted 2025, but we got a delay to 2026. And the reason why, I'm trying to explain this really carefully because it's really important. The reason why we did that is simple. So the effect of the B network could fully be felt in terms of cleaning up air. And actually, for you, the 50 buses that have gone onto your streets this week are making a massive contribution to that, to the problem that Bolton had. Because the buses here were the biggest cause of polluted air. So I am absolutely answering you directly. It would only happen if we were forced to do it by the government. But I've been... That's what you're going to do. You're going to blame it on the government. No. They would have to require it, and they have been trying to require it on Manchester City Centre. But the 10 councils and myself, we are absolutely clear. We will not do it, and we would only do it if we had no choice because it was imposed on us from Central. And the thing about the cost, there's a full breakdown, and all those costs are in the public domain. As I say, none of it's been funded by anybody here because it's all centrally government funded. And the camera infrastructure, and I may just ask the Deputy Chief.
That was your wife, wasn't it?
No, I mean, that's what's kind of wrong, though, isn't it, when people say things like that? No. I mean, you shouldn't really say it like that without any... She's never...
Nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Nothing. I don't know if you think it's right just to throw those allegations out like that, but no, nothing. I know, and I cleared that up about 18 months ago. Of mine? No. My people, why would they say something about them? Anyway, I cleared that up a long time ago. I just don't think it's right for that kind of stuff to be...
So when's the signs coming down?
It's up to the government. It's up to the government. I've actually said today in the media, Prime Minister, you're coming to Greater Manchester, you say you don't want these charging zones anymore, even though you've been kind of forcing them on people, but let's just put that to one side. So start here, take the signs down. And I was just going to ask the Deputy Chief Constable to say something about, you're kind of implying it's all wasted. The camera infrastructure is actually, I'm going to be quite open about this. I want that transferred, well, jointly to TFGM and Greater Manchester Police. And I've discussed this with Terry, the Deputy Chief. We have the worst ANPR infrastructure in the country at the moment in terms of automatic number plate recognition. The camera infrastructure that's gone up has already been used to solve a number of the most serious crimes. But GMP can only use it at the moment in a sort of retrospective way. If they're investigating the crime, they can make an application for use of the camera data. I would want GMP, if there was a missing person thing or a kind of unfolding crime, to be able to have real-time access to that data. So, Terry, I don't know if you want to say something. This investment in the cameras, from our point of view, is not going to be wasted. In fact, we want it for traffic management purposes, but not for charging, but to make traffic flow, but mainly, in my view, for policing purposes.
Yeah.
Right.
So the ANPR cameras, this isn't speed cameras. Those cameras could turn us into the most protected force in the community from one of the least with ANPR at the minute. So if I give you an example, let's say, and this happens, child's abducted in a town. Normally, everybody's got a mobile. We'll tend to get a registration of that if something happens. With this infrastructure, if we can get the capability to have lifetime monitoring, and you know they're everywhere, the cameras, really quickly we could locate that car, save the child. So we've been very vocal from a policing point of view to say, actually, this infrastructure doesn't need to be wasted. This infrastructure could be put to a very good use to save kids, to save members of the public that need our help. And
Terry, it's already been used, hasn't it, for solve quite serious crimes, isn't it?
That what we can't use it for at the minute, for understandable reasons, we can't use it for lifetime crime in action, and it is crime. It's not traffic, and we can't use it for lifetime crime in action. What we have used it for. And it has to be a serious incident, but we've used it to help solve murders, solve, the most serious crimes against people. We've used it at court. So we can apply through TFGM if we've got serious incidents to look at the data of when the cars pass through. We've used it lots. It's very helpful. My point of view, because I think my job's to keep you safe, keep your families safe as best I can, is that we're really keen that we can use that lifetime. If we can do that, we go as a community to the best ANPR infrastructure in the country overnight. So it needn't be wasted.
Does it need more money to go into the system to get it up to that point?
Sorry, just say that again.
Is more money needed to go into the system to get it to the point that so that it could do what you need it to do?
Not massively, no. No, I mean, I'm sure there will be an interface required, etc. But it's within grasp of us doing it, and we could work through that. Obviously, there's ongoing costs of maintaining cameras and all the rest of it, but there is an opportunity here that we could protect you. In a different way, in a far better way.
That's really interesting. Right, we've got about 40 minutes left, so we'll try and rattle through a few of the other pre-selected.
I was just going to say, I'll tell you, it's a fair question, and you've asked it directly, but hopefully I've given you a direct answer. But I just want to reference what Nigel said before. Obviously we put the new buses on already, more to come. that is the better way of doing this, in my view, and this is what I'm saying to the government. If you fund public transport properly, to modernise it, clean it up, that's a better route to clean air than doing this clean air zone thing. And that is, honestly, that is our position. And it won't change. And it would only be, as I say, an imposition from the government.
So we have another question from Julie Patterson.
Hi Andy, my
Hi,
question goes back to 2017 on the topic of homelessness, where you give a quote in the Manchester News stating that if you hadn't tackled the issue or narrowed the gap of homelessness, then we were to hold you to account. The year is now 2023 and in Bolton that gap has widened. What are your intentions to narrow that gap?
Yeah. So the commitment I made was on rough sleeping, which is obviously a different challenge to homelessness, which is a much bigger thing, because obviously you've got families who are homeless in temporary accommodation, people's sofas. Homelessness is a bigger thing, but rough sleeping was the promise that I made. So when I got elected, I created something called a bed every night. At the time, the figures that I had at the time said that in 2017 there were 17 rough sleepers in Bolton on average every night. The latest figures for Bolton are that there were 2. Well, that's. Well, it's the way the count is done. I mean, these are not. I didn't. We asked for the figures. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. And I'm not trying to give you anything other than the answer that, an honest answer. Not everybody who's there queuing is actually homeless, are they? I mean, I'm not saying that people aren't in dire straits for certain, but actually, the numbers who are actually sleeping rough has dropped quite significantly across all 10 boroughs. We had about 300 people sleeping rough every night in Greater Manchester in 2017. It is down, it varies, it's going up a little bit at the moment, I'll be honest with you, because of some of the cost of living issues. But it's in double figures, and it has been for a long time. So we run a bed every night, and we run it here in Bolton every night with the council. So any given night, you will have about, 50 people in a bed every night in Bolton that is supported by the fund that I created. If we are still in a position, if anyone is sleeping rough, we can offer to accommodate them. It may not be in Bolton, but we can find somewhere for them anywhere in Greater Manchester. So it's a big challenge, but the commitment is still there. I still donate 15% of my salary towards the fund to support a bed every night. The mayoral budget is still committed to it. We're still working at it, but it's a hard one given the cost of living challenges that we face.
That's my concern, and that's the angle where we're coming from, with the cost of living crisis.
Yep.
At the moment, it's predominantly males which are on the streets, but we are noticing more and more families are becoming homeless as well.
If I'm honest with you, there's a Home Office issue here as well, where they have just cut support from people and evicted people from Home Office accommodation, and that is a big part of some of the pressure that we're seeing at the moment. The Home Office, I don't think, treat our part of the world fairly or properly. We have traditionally done our bit to provide support for people who need it, but I don't think it's right when we do that, then just to have that funding just completely whipped away and people evicted, and then the councils and all of us left trying to deal with that. I think the Home Office treat us disgracefully, to be honest with you, and they treat the individual people disgracefully who are left in that position. So it's a huge challenge, but there's a huge commitment from us to carry on working on it. Tonight, I'll just give you just final little bit of information on this. I've checked the figures again. Tonight, a bed every night will be supporting 550 people across Greater Manchester. Now, it didn't exist in 2017. We couldn't, and we didn't offer people, but it does now. But the numbers have grown way beyond the numbers who were sleeping rough in there. So it shows you there's a load of people who are very close to rough sleeping, but they're in a bed every night. And I would happily work with Bolton Council to increase the number of places in a bed every night here if you know, and I don't say what you're saying is wrong. The latest figure I had was 2, but that was the count done in the summer, I think. So. Fair enough. I'm more than. We're doing the annual count quite soon, so that will give you so they do it in November, so that's like an annual count that's done with the government, and that gives you the sort of the figure that everyone works off. So that's going to happen soon, and we'll work off that. There's no one's hiding from the issue, but thanks for what you do on the issue.
So we've got a couple of other questions. A couple of ladies with their hands up over here.
So, hello, Mayor Burnham. My name is YM Carrington, so Y is in Yolanda, M is in Marie. I go by my initials. I'm a University of Manchester first-year postgraduate from the United States, if you couldn't tell. And my issue with housing in Greater Manchester is that these landlords, like I actually call the Manchester City Council, these landlords are allowed to have the most ridiculous restrictions on immigrants. I arrived here as an international student. I was looking for housing in Greater Manchester, and everyone's telling me you either have to have a guarantor who's UK-based. I just got here, right? You have to have a guarantor that's UK-based, or you have to pay up to a year's worth of rent. I just got here, and I don't come from wealth. Back in the US, I was an activist. I'm a descendant of enslaved people. I come from African-American poverty in the US, but I'm here to study history in Britain. And again, even as a US citizen, me dealing with that discrimination, I can't imagine if I was a refugee or came from anywhere else outside of the Anglosphere. It's infuriating. It's infuriating. And yeah, there's a lot that I've been in Britain a month, and there's a lot that I see about Britain that is absolutely infuriating. And I'm from America. America's bad. But the landlord issue alone is what causes homelessness.
Yeah. No, I'd take your point. Just what university are you studying at? Out of interest?
University of Manchester.
Are they helping you?
Oh my God. So that was an ordeal because do you know they had the cyber incident in June?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so their accommodation website was down the whole summer. I got here August 20th. It was still down August 20th. And so I was staying in a hotel in the Gay Village for a month when I got here. And my time was up. I was running out of money. And I was like, the only reason why I have accommodation now, and I got it last week, is because I called the Manchester City Council, and they told me, the university has an obligation to provide you housing. You're an international student.
That's why I was asking. But yeah.
And when I emailed accommodation, they were like, okay, they did a 180. They found me accommodation in Salford, but it's for kids. I'm 45. My back is hurting right now. Those beds are garbage. And so, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, immigrants deserve better.
Yeah.
We deserve better. People, the Uber drivers, I wouldn't have eaten without those Uber drivers, and they're going through hell. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Well, what I'll do at the end is I'll again take your details and we'll speak to the university just to check that you're getting properly helped, because they should be helped.
Thank you so much. The lady just in front of you there.
I think we need to look at the Serco deal that the landlords are being offered, which is why we're witnessing families being turfed out on the street with weeks' notice.
Yeah.
Like my daughter's rent's gone up £170 this year. She's had to take an extra day's work just to try and cover half of it. I witnessed a family getting turfed out last Christmas with 7 days to go. She had 3 small children. She ended up in a hotel. So when we're getting the migrants out of the hotels and into these houses, you're just swapping that crisis for the other one where the families are ending up in the hotels. So I think we need to look at that Serco deal because it's one that the landlords really can't refuse because it's money for nothing.
Serco with the Home Office, is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I say the Home Office causes us no end of problems, and it's Bernie, isn't it? I'm not going to pretend otherwise. And the other problem we've got is something the government has said it will repeatedly fix, but hasn't, which is this no-fault eviction situation where they can evict somebody without any reason. And that has been promised so many times that would be changed, and we're still waiting. We're waiting for this renters reform bill, is what we're waiting for. Which will touch on some of the issues you were raising as well. And it's still we're still waiting, and this government's running out of time. So it's a very frustrating situation because, to be honest with you, the councils have to pick up the pieces of all of this failure at a national level. The Home Office failure to reform the rental laws.
Well, they'll have to, because it literally is families with children that are bearing the brunt of this.
The thing I'd say is, and I know these debates are in the media, and I know they're being used politically, but this issue about the two-child rule in the benefit system, and there's also a benefit cap, and also there's a freeze on what's called local housing allowance. So the bit of your benefit that covers your housing, that's been frozen now for about 3 years. So all of that creates a gap between if you're a single mum, and let's say 3 or 4 kids, the gap between what you've got and the actual rent is getting...
It's practically half now.
Yeah,
you want to see those rents
we know that.
risen by 50%.
But we know that. But if you look at the 10 councils of Greater Manchester and you see how many families, kids, are in temporary accommodation, the numbers have increased by, across the 10 districts, Manchester the most.
Massive.
300%.
We see it.
But this is the thing that frustrates me, as somebody who used to be in Westminster, where they just say, you're tough on benefits and this and that. They do that, and they force kids to move from where the school are, and they're in this temporary accommodation, which is totally unsuitable.
Yeah.
But also the councils then have to pay for that because they have to house those families. What the lady behind described, we have a dysfunctional housing system and a dysfunctional...
Well, I'm a victim of that.
I do know that, yes. But we're absolutely in agreement that to me, housing should be a human right in UK law, and that's because people can't bring up your kids without a good home. You just can't do it.
No, you can't. But, we lost our home through a disaster.
I know.
Nearly 3 years ago. I've been battling the council to get... I'm still in temporary accommodation, which is wholly unsuitable. I was prepared to put up with that temporarily, maybe 6 months, but we're nearly 3 years on. It's making me ill, absolutely, physically and emotionally. And my son, for the first time in his life, is depressed because we're being denied the right to our family life, our normal family life. 3 years.
We'll have a follow-up meeting. I'll fix a follow-up meeting.
Thank you.
I just want someone to speak to me, Andy, and no one from the council will speak to me. No one.
We'll have a follow-up meeting.
Can I just say, just this week I was told to go and rent private, to go and get my own and to rent private. Now, the prices I'm seeing are like $8.50 upwards.
No, okay, it's not.
So,
got one more question from the lady in blue up there.
Can I just ask, please? I live in Bolton, and I'm here in the Bolton University. Why on earth is it being changed to the University of Manchester?
Ooh.
I live in Bolton. This is Bolton, and this is Bolton University. That has been for years. What's the agenda? What's going on? Where is Bolton going?
That's one. I was hoping to save that for the topic.
I can't answer
until,
I think I'll have to leave that one to the university
until the end. Well, we'll let Greg answer that question now, if you want to, and that will lead us on to a related issue that we can come to afterwards.
No, we're proud as a university to represent both our town and our county. We are equally a university for Bolton itself and also for Greater Manchester. Nearly 70% of our students come from the wider county of Greater Manchester. Okay. So we represent those students as well. We want to be able to put our students in the best position when they graduate, to have a degree certificate that will be recognised, that will have a global recognition. And Greater Manchester has that real brand, that recognition. And we've had students, our own students, emailing us, contacting us, saying that actually this will help them in the graduate job market. It will help them, be able to sell themselves and their skills to employers.
That's not answering my question. I'm asking why this Bolton University that is in Bolton being changed to Manchester University. Manchester has a university. Salford isn't changing. We have Bolton Royal Hospital that has a part of the university. So it's Bolton Royal Hospital with Manchester University bit in it. It's Bolton. This is Bolton University. I don't see why it should be changed.
We're not proposing to call ourselves the same name as another university. We're going to call ourselves, if we get the agreement of the Office for Students, after the County of Greater Manchester. We don't want to be called named after the City of Manchester or the City of Salford. Those are the other two universities in the county. So we're asking for a name that is identified with the region and the county, and there shouldn't be any confusion or misleadingness about that. Because it will benefit students, it will benefit our graduates, and it will benefit us in terms of our ability to project ourselves. Because our students, the employers and international students and our own students who are going out into the graduate job market, they can distinguish.
Okay, I'll just step in here because obviously the event is called Ask the Mayor, not Ask the Vice Chancellor.
Can I just?
Of the University of Bolton.
Can I just?
But we have a couple of questions.
Just one second, Rob. If I could just make clear though, we're neutral in this. This is not something that's anything to do with the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, and the other universities have a different view. So we're back from this, and it's not inspired or anyway. Just to make that clear.
So I'll move on from that to a related question. So we've got two very similar questions. One from Dylan Evans and one from Charles Ward. There's one of them up there.
Hi, Andy. So, as you're probably aware, recently 3,000 people signed a petition by Bolton for Change calling for a referendum on Bolton's future within Greater Manchester. You've constantly changed your position on this over the past few months. You said in an interview with BBC Radio Manchester that quote, the majority of people in Bolton are proud to be part of Greater Manchester, and that leaving, quote, doesn't have majority support. But yet you and the Labour Council leader refused to back a referendum to find out whether it does have majority support. In the same interview, you said that if the campaign did have majority support in Bolton, you could not ignore it and you would respect a democratic decision. So I'm not asking for a deflection or to talk about the pros and cons of leaving versus staying in the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. That's an issue for a referendum campaign. On the issue of democracy, do you think the people of Bolton should decide their town's future, yes or no?
Yes.
So you support a referendum then?
Yeah, if that's your choice to have one, it's not my choice. And I don't think anything I said that you quoted is contradictory. I said then it's your choice, and it is your choice. You would have to decide as a borough, and bear in mind, obviously the borough has lots of areas, doesn't it? That Farnworth and other areas that may feel, I don't know, differently. But that's your choice. So the kind of way Greater Manchester works is people have bought in voluntarily, haven't they? And they don't have to be part of the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. I happen to believe it does give you benefits like the B network that we're discussing tonight.
Yep, so you're saying it's our choice, but when the issue was brought before Bolton Council, they dismissed it. They introduced a motion.
What I mean is I don't run Bolton Council. You know, if it's the will of everybody that they're really clamouring for a referendum, then that has to become an issue at a local election, doesn't it? And then you have to have a council that then supports one. But it's all for you to decide. It's not for me to dictate to you. Personally, just let me answer though, if you don't mind. I mean, obviously, I used to be the MP for Lee, and Lee had that strong affiliation with Lancashire, Lee Lancs. But I would say that was the older generation that had that. And I would say most people, when I said that comment, most people, I think I actually had most younger people. I think would. If they're away anywhere where you're from, they would say Manchester, and I think that's where they would sort of affiliate. But that said, it's always the choice of any of the boroughs. We had a situation on a planning issue when we were having an approach with all the 10 councils were involved, and Stockport Council decided that they didn't want to be part of it, and they broke away. On waste, there's there's a contract for Greater Manchester, but Wigan decided that they didn't want to be part of it. So Greater Manchester, you can kind of buy into it as much as you like, or not at all if you don't want to. It's your choice. So
just for the record, just so we're clear, because the Bolton Council and council leader didn't support it, do you think the Bolton Council should support having a referendum on this issue?
Personally not. I wouldn't, because I think we've lived through a period where we've been having these sort of debates about structures and, is Scotland going to stay in the UK? Are we going to stay in Europe? And now we're even going down to another level. They're just divisive, I think. They're kind of like taking us away from the issue. We should, in my view, I mean, this is just my view. I believe in unions of people, trade unions, unions of areas, unions of boroughs, unions of nations, because I think you get better results when we work as a cohesive group of peoples all in our different areas. If you kind of constantly break everything down into its constituent parts, I don't think you get a better transport system by being Bolton on your own. I just don't think you'd get more funding by being Bolton on your own. But that's my view. I mean, you're fully entitled to take a different view, and I'm not here to lecture anybody about it. You'd have to come to your own view about that.
So,
pardon? No, I didn't say that. No, don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say that.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't be afraid of a referendum. I just think it would unlock a lot of pointless negativity when at a time we should be focusing on fixing housing, getting the transport system working for people. That's what I think, because if you look at the referenda that we've had in the last decade in this country, Scotland is still fighting it years on, and people are like that. Families don't talk to each other because of the effect of that. The Brexit referendum, the same. Whichever side people were on, it kind of polarises people, and people stop working together, and it has that effect. If you did the same here, it would make everyone in Bolton argue with each other and carry on arguing with each other, and I don't think it takes everybody forward. I don't think you get human progress in that way, where everyone's constantly arguing with each other and everyone's on this side or that side. We've got too much of that going on in society at the moment, all these culture wars with this and that, and how do we get back together a bit more and start working together? Isn't that a better way of going? I would say so.
Interesting point. I'll just say that there was a very similar question from Charles Ward. Why does Andy think it's an outdated concept for Bolton to have a referendum on leaving Greater Manchester? I think you've answered that question.
I'd like to think I have.
Yes,
but,
I think you have too. We've got a couple of questions that have preordained. Well, actually, so do you want to ask a quick question?
Yes, thank you. It's on a similar line, but it's nothing to do with a referendum on Greater Manchester. It's actually some factual data that I've studied, and there are 3 small financial analyses. And I think if we could work on these, working together in a more cohesive understanding of funding and facts, then I do believe people would be far more willing to come closer to this large Greater Manchester Authority. So I respectfully present some financial analysis. Andy, over the first 4 years of your term, you've been in charge of a 3.9 billion budget. Bolton pays more precept levy per capita to fund the GMC mayoral office than Manchester City Council, despite having, over your first term, Bolton has been required to pay 10 million more. Over your first term, Bolton police staffing received 50 million less per capita than Manchester City, despite having a similar crime rate. And finally, Bolton has performed the worst of all 10 boroughs in terms of winning grants from the GMCA-administered grant programme. In fact, Bolton has won just 5% of the 95 million total sum, while Manchester City Council has claimed and won 27% of all the grants. So just to back that up.
I think you've made your point, sir. Let's let Andy answer that.
I think you and I are going to have a different discussion, because I honestly don't recognise your figures. The budget of the Greater Manchester Combined Authority is not 9 billion. It's just not, that is not the budget.
The FOI is right here for you, Andy.
Well, honestly, I wish it was, but it isn't. And in terms of the investment that Bolton has had, I obviously checked these things before I came tonight. the latest figures I've had is you've had 50 million investment from various Greater Manchester funds in the
This
time
is the
period.
first 4 years of your term
No,
study.
I've got the same time period.
2017
In my time in
to
office,
21.
50 million.
These figures have come from your
I
office.
don't think this is
under
going to help
NFOI.
anybody just trading the stats.
I think we could go back and forth about numbers all day. You maybe want to raise it later. We've got a couple of more questions that have come in. This one is on equalities, and it is from Amber Shaw.
Hi.
Hi, Amber.
So my question is, how do we ensure that leisure opportunities, nightlife and music venues across the city are accessible to young people, disabled people like myself? They can be made to, as they can be as mayor, what could you and your team be doing to champion this? Definitely, since we're having the big O2 Arena opening in like several months.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and you're right. It's called Co-op Live. It's better than the O2 Arena actually. So I don't know if everyone knows, but we've got this massive new indoor music venue opening near the Etihad in Manchester. Sorry to put a bloke at the back, and it's got absolutely fantastic disability access, proper viewing platforms at every level. So more like the standard you might get in Premier League football grounds these days. That's a sore point in Bolton as well. I'm going to lose this whole audience in a minute, aren't I? If I carry on in this vein. However, some of the other music venues in the city are not at all accessible, and this is an issue on the back of your question that I'm going to ask Sasha to. We've looked at it before, and he's done some work with festivals, and I think they've improved access. But venues are.
It's venues in the ticketing system because you can't. So you can't. So no. So normally you would go online, order a ticket, then you're done. But for me, I had to phone the place I'm going to or email them. You can easily do that online.
Okay.
In my opinion.
What I'm going to do, Amber, is I'm going to fix up a meeting for you with Sasha Lord, and then we're going to go through those issues. And Sasha is. Yeah.
Awareness around, a real lack of awareness around basic things. We had to pick her up from the OT Victoria. I understand why they have to shut the road, but there was no designated disabled pickup point. So I'm walking in the middle of the road, I'm lifting a chair over barriers into the middle of a busy main road. It's really dangerous actually sometimes. And, she's like any other young person, she wants to go out with her friends and be independent. Yeah. And unfortunately, because of I'd say actually a lot of it does come down to awareness and staff being aware of needs as well as the actual physical access of the building. And unfortunately, she hasn't got that. And, you can see actually she's passionate. She wants to work with you to change it.
Right. Well, we'll absolutely, we'll get that meeting together. And if anyone's going to change it, then you are. I know, because I know what you've done before.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, we've got 12 minutes left. I can see a load of hands up. What I'm going to do is just take the final pre-selected question, which is on police and crime, and then we'll see how many of these we can get through before we finish. So the police and crime question is from John Lawrence.
Thanks. John Lawrence, National Housing Party, Oldham. Andy and Chief Constable Woods, I know there's been a lot. Will violence against women be taken seriously, considering several high-profile cases, including Zaina Imam and Sarah Hussain from Bury? Question to you both. I know you've made statements, and I know there's probably investigations going on, but, if we look at past issues, I've seen police thrown under the bus when they shouldn't be. I've seen really botched investigations across the country in different areas. Can you tell me that you're going to do a proper investigation?
Yeah. Now, just before you give a sort of broader answer, you mentioned two specific cases. So Zaina Iman is the woman who, she told Sky News that she was drugged and sexually assaulted while in Greater Manchester Police custody. Yeah. And then you mentioned Sarah Hussain, which is a tragic case, a woman in Bury who died in 2021. She suffered severe burns. Both cases are at a very sensitive stage, I think, at the moment, so maybe a limit on what people can say about the specifics of them. And I think in the Sarah Hussain case, the inquest was going on this summer, it was paused so that prosecutors could examine the evidence. But I guess, Andy and maybe Terry, you could answer the wider question. What is Greater Manchester doing to tackle violence against women?
We've got the Deputy Mayor, Kate Green, as well here tonight, who's responsible for policing and crime. So maybe Kate might want to say something on this in a moment. I'll just start off and hand over to Kate. Your question is absolutely right. Completely right to ask it, John. If we think of Zaina's case in particular, that was, as I think has just been said, it was on Sky News. It was quite shocking to see the images that were broadcast and obviously some of the allegations that were made. And there were other, that broadcast, if you remember, wasn't just one case. I think it was three altogether, actually. And just trying to remember now, Kate, we've met 2 of the 3 now, haven't we? I've met them personally. So on the back of that, Kate and I agreed to bring in the former Victims Commissioner, Dame Vera Baird, to look at the whole issue of the treatment of women in custody in Greater Manchester. And the Baird review is underway and it's kind of moving forward quite quickly. I don't know, Kate, whether you're going to say something more about that tomorrow as well, aren't you? So.
Yeah, so I have to say, like anyone who saw that Sky News programme, Andy and I were absolutely shocked at that report and what had happened to those women. And apart from our absolute horror for them and what that must have felt like to them, we were also very concerned, and I know, Terry, you would say the same, about what that would do to women and girls' confidence in the police in Greater Manchester. You know, would we be prepared to report a crime if we thought the next thing that would happen to us would be we'd be arrested and put in a cell and strip search? Terry, that's the last thing that you want to happen in Greater Manchester Police. So Andy and I asked Dame Vera Baird, a former Victims Commissioner, very respected King's Counsel, to do this inquiry for us. And she's in the process of meeting women who've been in that situation. She's interviewed some of the women herself. She's looking at CCTV from our police cells where she can.
A lot more have come forward as well.
More
Kate.
women have come forward, and she's hearing their stories and will be discussing it with the police and with other groups that support women and girls, including those who've experienced violence and abuse in their personal lives. We expect to get her report into that later in the year, towards the end of the year. We are committed to publishing it in full. Andy and I won't be editing it or redacting it or taking bits out of it. We will make it fully available to the public. But that's just the start, isn't it, Terry? I mean, we're not just interested in having a report and then it's done and dusted. We're absolutely determined that every woman, every girl that comes into contact with Greater Manchester Police is treated with respect, dignity, kept safe, even if she's in custody and even if that custody is entirely justified. We want to be humane, decent, fair, and nobody can feel comfortable, I think, about any woman being treated the way that it seems that some of those women experienced in police custody. We've also had the independent HMI inspectors, the police inspectors have been in looking at our custody suites. We are expecting them back later on in the year, and I can promise you that in the meantime, Terry and his colleagues have been running through a whole programme of activities to improve what we do in those custody suites. We've upgraded the physical premises. We're providing better, what they call them, welcome packs, but, you know, packs with the basics. If you're taken in and you need a toothbrush, maybe sanitary protection if you're a woman. We've upgraded those packs. We're doing more training. We've put many more police officers into those custody suites so that they're not running short-staffed and ignoring when bells and buzzers are being pressed. It's a really, really important and serious question you ask us, and it's getting really serious attention from Andy, from me, from Terry, from the Chief Constable, Stephen Watson. We're determined to get this right. We want to be a decent, humane police service that treats everyone with respect and dignity, and we're determined we're going to do that.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Good answer. Thank you so much. Right, we've got 7 or 8 minutes left, so let's try and get through the final question. There's a chap in the glasses over there who's had his hand up for a little while, and then we'll see if we can get to the guys in the middle as well.
Thank you very much. My name's Wayne Mellor from Inner City. Andy, you might recognise that name. I'm not stalking you, honestly. I was at Duckenfield on the 29th of June. I'd like to just take us back to, you probably know where I'm going to go with this, excuse me, housing. So we've got 97,000 people on the housing waiting list. You say that's gone up by about 300% of the kids, which is dreadful. You and I engaged on this about 3 months ago. You've kindly referred me to Steve Fife and Phil Renison, and I'll follow that up, and thank you very much for that. I was encouraged greatly in Dukenfield when you referred to 30,000 proposed new social houses coming forward. Again, when we talk about affordable housing is not affordable to people who can only afford to pay local housing allocation rents. So 3 months has gone by since we last picked this one up. It applies to pretty much everyone in the room, housing, so it's a generic. And I just wonder, your comment, we need to work together. Private and public partnerships do work. There are solutions for models out there. I just wonder, how quickly can we bring this forward, because it's dragging?
Yeah, no, it's a fair shout. It's challenging because the funding doesn't work to support social housing, as you know. So what we're having to do is look at how we can find ways of bringing more subsidy in. So we're looking at whether public sector sites that are no longer needed can be then used as housing sites. So there's actually a very big GMP site, for those who know it, just off Chester Road, it's technically in Trafford, but it's close to the city. That's it was the force headquarters, wasn't it? Yeah, the communications headquarters, wasn't it, for a long time. And that site's going to be brought forward as part of that 30,000, where we're going to, bring through a big, a chunk. We won't obviously it will only be a smallish contribution, but we are getting it going. So it's a hard one, but it's a real commitment, and we've got a team now looking at how many we can deliver every year. It's going to take through this decade and into the next, but that's our plan.
Thank you, Andy. So I reckon we just got time for the questions from the gentleman and the lady in the middle. So perhaps we can just pass the mic to one of them, and then you could pass it back to the other one, and then you could try and answer both those questions.
Hi,
great.
My name's Kath Dyson. I'd just like to thank the gentleman in front of me for asking that important question about the violence against women in Greater Manchester. And my question's related to that. It's about the aggression, the violence and the intimidation that is faced by women that are assembling to discuss their sex-based rights in this city. I am involved in organising events and attending events, and we get excessively protested by aggressive trans activists, because just the statement of us assembling and to talk about our sex-based rights is identified as transphobic. So I would just like to ask the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor, do you think women discussing sex-based rights are transphobic? Is police order legislation being wrongly applied? And what can you do as our Mayor with responsibility for policing to ensure that plurality of views and free speech for expression of what are commonly held beliefs are protected in law?
Yeah. So before you answer that one, we just hear the question from the gentleman as well.
Yeah, my name's Paul. Thanks, Andy, for everything that you've done with Hillsborough and all that Hillsborough law. My question's about police corruption and murder. I'm a survivor of being sexual abused as a young kid. I got passed around from one person to another person. Some years ago, my friend, many years later, asked me to come forward with a police appeal, 2004, on Crime Watch. I came forward, and then my friend said the police had changed. And to my understanding, the police haven't changed. 2018, I found out what was going on over a superintendent and a gay male that murdered this person, and the protecting that own the place. I've been in touch with Angela Rayner, IMSTEM from Labour Party. I sent emails, done police complaints, nothing. And there's people in Southport and in Liverpool that want the family to find answers who murdered these people. I found out through these police appeals what's gone on, and all I'm getting is the police hiding these murderers and the superintendent that's responsible for these murders.
So
what can I do?
Okay, your question. Okay, that's your question. Maybe you take the first question first, Andy, if that's okay.
The first one, yeah, and I don't know whether, because obviously there's an operational policing angle as well in the question, so maybe Kate or Terry may want to comment as well. I mean, the answer to your question is, as a city region, we have always supported people's right to free speech and protest. That runs deep in the city. Even if sometimes that is challenging for other people, but that's the way we've always done it. And you know, we often will speak to GMP about that tradition, and that we don't favour heavy-handed policing to stop protest. And in the kind of instances that you've mentioned, I think there has been a kind of an approach there, which is facilitate, is to allow people to do what they want. But there's a caveat, and that is as long as there's no intimidation linked to it, or any incitement, if you like, against other people. So GMP will police on that basis when it comes to protest in the city, and I think they do it well. It's tough, but they do it well. And what we're trying to do is to kind of allow that to happen, but without, if you like, without, as I say, intimidation or harassment or incitement. And that's what we try and do. Kate, I don't know whether you would want to add anything to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, women have a right to meet, to protect their sex-based rights and discuss that. Of course, people who want to campaign for the rights and interests of transgender people who suffer some of the most appalling abuse, actually, in the country have the right to do that. And people can disagree, and we have always had the right to disagree and to try to disagree respectfully. What's not acceptable in any circumstances is intimidation, harassment. I know some of the women who were at the recent events at the People's History Museum, which you may know about, you may have been there, and I know that they felt that Greater Manchester Police, if I was told, handled the situation well and protected the women who were at the meeting inside the museum when they were leaving. If there are allegations made, and I think there may have been, of criminal behaviour, public order offences, the police will, and I believe are, fairly and independently, impartially investigating them, and that's what Andy and I would expect the police to do. So it's absolutely right that people have the right to have their say, but they have to do that within the law, and that is what we will expect Greater Manchester Police to uphold, and I know you will, Terry.
Yeah, I mean, GMP, so I did most of my service in Lancs, and there wasn't loads of protest, if I'm being honest, in Lancs. You'd get it now and again. I've had 2 years here now. Every weekend we police protest, certainly in the city centre. I can't think of a weekend where we've not had, and there's lots of people protesting about lots of different things. I think that's a strength in Manchester. People can have an opinion. Quite often we're in the middle, and it is an objective opinion that we try and reach within it. What I would say is that what we do have is some very experienced officers that perform a role of protester liaison officers. They normally wear the blue bibs. If you're involved in protest, those people are the ones that are doing it week in, week out. They try and get the balance right between both sides. We try and stay out of debate. We need to be objective. We will only step in, usually, if there is law breaking within it, be it assaults, etc., etc. And we have intervened in some of those instances, some of which I'm aware of, some of which I probably won't be. If you want to catch us after, if there's any particular things, I can put you in contact with the teams that would actually probably be policing those sides. I could get you a point of contact for the protester liaison. There is no exact science to policing protest, is the honest view, and we try and maintain the best balance we can. The strength in Manchester is the experience that we have in protest. Like I say, the beauty of Manchester is every week for different things. But if you want to collar us after, we're quite happy to chat it through. Cheers.
Thank you. And, well, we're nearly at time. Is there anything any of you can say about the terrible situation that the chap has raised there?
I mean, I will have a word with you, because obviously it's a particular situation, isn't it? So did say I was sorry to hear what happened to you, but it may involve a different police force. So anyway,
I think that sounds like the most
appropriate
way of dealing with it.
Just thank you, Rob, for facilitating the discussion. Thank everybody for coming. It's been a really good discussion. Lots of really good points made, and I think what I would just say is, I think these kind of sessions that we hold and what we're trying to do in Greater Manchester, at least, I think we're focusing on practical things that affect people, and we're kind of debating things in the right way. So it's great actually that everyone's come down. I hope there's some toilets at Bolton, disability access at festivals. Maybe there's some service to Norwich. I've got my list. I was like, Joan, I know you're not going to let me forget that one. I know. When I'm out campaigning in Norwich in a few years.
Well, should we give Andy a big round of applause?
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks everyone. And thanks to the university for hosting us.
And thanks to the Mayor's Office and to all the security staff and the staff of the university who made tonight possible. It's been great democracy in action. Cheers, everybody.
Superb.
Thank you. Well said. Well said. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Nice. Cheers, Andy.
It's really good to do it.
No problem. It was.